being scared. Being scared really has two great big things that have happened. I mean, being scared, I am scared. I've been scared, I am scared. But if you haven't been scared, you haven't been in love. And when this comes down to it, it goes back to anybody telling me that based on me being scared, they would stop. And it's not really about me, is it? It's about how they're feeling about somebody else being scared. Because when it comes down to it, if I'm scared, let's say it's just me, then what does that matter? It's not really about me, is it? It's not really about me being scared or being honest about how I feel or being open. Emotions of the open mind do really have an emphasis and do really hit the spot because there's a realistic turn there. It's not, it's not something you could touch, but it is something that is real because it's not something that's trying to get a climax or, the old saying of trying to just get something in the end. Oh, yes, I'm going to get her or I'm going to get him. The revenge aspect, which is very easy to get. I mean, most people enjoy that. When it comes down to it, that's what this is about, really. If I'm scared, it actually proves I actually want something more. Because I'm scared. I'm not trying to be a better person. I'm trying to be myself. I'm not trying to look at my future and say I'm going to make my future different by making myself different. It's not going to help. I have to be myself and I have to move forward with that myself or else it's not going to change. So I can't look at that and say I'm going to change myself to make this person happy. Because that's not going to change anything. When it comes down to it, if you've lied about the kind of person you are, with any friendships or any person in general, if you've lied to anybody about your personality, with who you are, if you were withholding certain emotions until the end, if you're on and on, this list can go on. It doesn't always work because just because somebody accepts you for who you are, if they accept you for who you are and you don't, there's the problem, If you don't accept yourself for who you are, then you can't really love that person because you're looking for somebody else to accept you. Even if you don't. But that's not going to happen because if you don't accept yourself, or let's not just say that, if you don't accept the kind of things you're tolerable towards, the person that you're tolerable towards, then you can't really love that person because you're saying that this person has to know better what kind of person I am. Even if you don't completely accept yourself, you have to see that from the other person. If you don't see that, they don't love me. And you prefer somebody who's going to be forceful, controlling, because that shows, hey, this guy loves me because he's still here. He may want to be controlling, but he's still here with me acting like this. If you consider that love, yes, of course, totally understandable. Because it comes back to boasting egos and how you're feeling about that. How if you like boasting egos, which is what most arguments are about, then of course it's definitely for you. It's for that cause because that's what you wanted. It's like for being scared. If someone says, I'm not going to go to this place because I know you'll be scared with me, for example, then it's like a police officer not going to the scene of a crime because he knows the criminal will be scared. So the police officer decides not to go and says, let's say I call the police. Police, there's someone here trying to rob the place. Could you come right away? Oh, I'm sorry, we can't do that. The criminal's scared. We can't go there. He'll get more scared. We can't do that. I'm sorry, sir. And it's like, wait a minute, I thought you were the police. We are. But we're not in the business of scaring people. Oh, okay. And just like with about relationships, you gotta talk, not just try to make arguments in it. Because, that's the problem right there, is that if you're just creating an argument because you don't want to talk about something and deal with it face to face with somebody, then you're taking the easy way out too. The easiest option out. I'm just gonna argue with him until I win. There you go, there's your attitude towards it. Well, you lose, because if you want to make arguments with somebody, you're gonna have to pick a bad relationship. Because literally, if you don't want to deal with somebody directly, face to face, look at their face and say, this is what I want from a relationship, in the absence of truth, there's not going to be any good relationship. You got to have that truth, because if you're not going to decide together with that truth, you're deciding only apart. And it's like what's it to me, about people being scared. To me, I asked, that seems kind of odd, because it's like, if somebody's scared of me, if somebody's saying I'm scared, it shouldn't stop them from doing anything. That's a true fact, because it's not about my life that's going to be influenced or enhanced, you know? Like I said, I have been scared and am scared. If you're not scared, you've never been in love. You know, and that's what it comes down to. You know, this idea of what people pass off as, you know, this is prerogative, this is what's necessary. If you're deciding what's necessary for other people, and you see that somebody else is doing something that's not what you wanted them to do, and then you decide, well, this isn't the person that's going to be for me, then you're deciding, your expectation should never be based on your own future or about other people around you. The expectation should only be about you as a person. If your expectations live up to what you believe and what you are as an individual, then you're doing good. Because your future will come along right with that. It'll come along with who you are. Your expectations should always be on yourself. It should never be about your future. It should never be about the people around you. Because if you have expectations for others, what are your expectations for yourself? That's the first thing you should ask. You should never ask, what do I expect from you? You should always ask first, what do I expect from myself? You know? If I'm scared, that's good. I better be scared. You know, not fear. Fear's different. Fear is something that we build up in the head. Being scared is not. Being scared is something that can be honest. Because you definitely want to deal with something directly. You're scared that if you're scared that you're not able to, that's damn true. That's how I feel. Because I've been seeing people take the easy option out. You know, the challenge, so to speak, you know. Rather than bringing up fate, you know, fate can do its own thing. I could care less about fate. Fate has its own discussion to take care of on its own, and it's never going to be inside of me. And if anybody ever says, Marcello, you're my fate, I'm not going to believe it, because that to me is stupid. That to me proves that this person has built up an admiration for me that's unheard of, because admiration doesn't create a relationship. Actually, it hardly does, you know, especially a relationship where it's like, I want to be with you the rest of my life sort of thing. If it's admiration, they could destroy you in an instant. It's just like people settling to escape their families, which is what a lot of people do. Like, I just want to escape my family. I mean, that's why a lot of people create relationships too. Or get that security from somebody else. If they don't feel secure with themselves, how can security come from somebody else? And I'm not talking about everybody I know from my past. No, I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that none of them are secure with themselves. But I won't doubt that none of them have ever been. I'm sure there are a few that are very insecure with themselves. But you're not going to find security from others. At least not the kind of security that's going to help you get rid of that insecurity. It will help stave the bad side of it. But at some point you're going to learn, damn, I settled for something else. I settled for the football that I could get married with and have kids with. You know, whether it's a guy or a girl. Or whether it's a girl and a girl or a guy and a guy. All those relationships can be based on the same appointment, you know, the same reasoning. The same reasoning can come behind all those kind of relationships. It doesn't matter how you got into them. Whether you were breaking the love-hate cycle that you had with the previous relationships in your past, or whether it's based on what you're doing in the future. If it's still based on those same reasons of, I need to get away from my family, or I need to have some security, have somebody to be there with me, have a companion, have company. If it's based on something else, not just based on that alone, then it can have that insecure moment where it falls down. Because especially if you base the relationship off of security, off of money, for example. You know, I'm not going to put down everybody who thinks of it that way, but there is truth to that. And that's why this whole thing about arguments and stuff, to me, there wouldn't be an argument, because we have to talk it out. We have to talk everything out. Arguments are not talking things out. Everyone thinks, right here, this is me talking. Oh, this must be an argument because he's talking a lot. An argument is where you don't solve anything. A bad argument is where you don't solve anything. A good argument is where you actually solve something by the end, and you don't just have your egos in the argument. Now, if you hear somebody and you feel that ego of theirs come at you like nothing, and if they're afraid, which happens a lot, especially with myself, because I give that connection, that open heart, open love, open mind connection. A lot of people are afraid of that, so their fear just gives them a wall and they send out negative energy. Not even on purpose sometimes. Sometimes on purpose, sometimes not. And if they do that let's say on purpose, right there, they're already showing, I don't want this in my life. I don't want this new thing in my life. I'm afraid of the unknown. But see, even I am. When it comes down to it, if I'm scared of something, that proves that I'm afraid of the unknown. But I'm not running away from it. And that's the thing about it. When you put yourself in a position where you did something, and you ended something, and you want everybody else to, oh, just forget about it, wipe it clean. My feelings are true. They're not little things that you could pass off like a price tag. If you try to, you'll lose me as a friend too, because you used me like a price tag and a sales tag and stuff as such. We're on sale now, on sale now. It doesn't change what kind of person I am just because you're on sale now. If you want something real, you have to, not only do you have to ask for it, not only do you have to demand for it, it's not about those things. If you take it seriously, whether or not someone else has brought it up, but if somebody's serious enough to understand that they have to walk away, they have to walk away. And you have to take them in that position. With what happened before, in my past years right now, I've seen that this whole thing is based on that. My true honest feelings are scary for a lot of people. Damn. They scare them down deep in the ocean. Because it's not about throwing anybody to, into the ocean or something. And which a lot of people are used to that kind of forceful kind of relationship. Because they say, oh, this person loves me, they're using force on me. So they must love me in some ways. Well, it matters what you think love is. It matters what you say personally what love is. If you think love is force, that's up to you to decide. Don't look at the other person and say, well, you should know how to do this. And don't look at somebody else and say they should change to this characteristic so that I can take them seriously. Don't do that, because they showed you the kind of person they are. If they have to change to make you happy in that kind of relationship, they're not the right person for you, especially in that kind of change. That's different, It's the same thing that I told Sebastian this week too, on Facebook, when we were talking, when he posted about expectations and saying expectations of your future. And I said, expectations of your future? Nuh-uh. You just have to have expectations of yourself, and the future will come along right with it. Because your expectations on who you are and how you act every day, every second, are far more important than how you look at other people and the expectations you have for them, which is basically reputation right there. You're putting a label of reputation on the kind of person you have in your life. Even friends or family or boyfriend or girlfriend or wife or husband, if you have expectations that are so nullified, then you've already nullified the relationship, because you've said, I need to settle this much in the relationship, or I need to know what this person is doing every second. Then that's really trust issues right there. If you can't trust the person you're with, why are you with him? Well, because he protects me, she protects me, they protect me. Well, if that's the only reason to stay with this person, there's going to be a lot of arguments. For one, because you've now created a relationship that already has settled. You've settled. Unlike most people who shouldn't. I think most people shouldn't settle. Not because there's a problem with settling down, but not the kind of settling down where it's physical. Because there's much more labor in pleasuring people than just, well, I feel good here sitting here and being myself here. Yeah, I do too. But once a lot of people listen to their friends. And I say this in a more corrupt way. They listen to their friends word for word at times about the kind of people that are around them. And what they think about them, the reputation right there. That's where it comes in and becomes a problem. That's where my friendships got lost too. When everybody started listening to the reputation, meaning the other people in their lives that talked about me, that's when they lost me as a friend. Because they saw the eye sculpture go downhill, And that's the thing that happened right there, is that once they started listening to that and saying that the reputation of me is far more important than what they saw of me when they saw me in person, talked to me in person, and knew me in person, then right there and then they've already lost the kind of friendship and relationship they could have with me. In any way, in any form, they've lost it. Because they're now going to judge me in that way, and they won't acknowledge it. Maybe they won't even understand that they're treating me differently, but they are. That's how I know a lot of friendships are over, especially when people don't notice their reactions to things and the way they act towards me. If they are doing that, they lost me, because now they don't even want to acknowledge how they're treating me. That's it, clearly. And that's not even with madness or... Actually, it's mostly just feeling ashamed. That I knew you this long and you never understood that I'm not the type of person. You know, I feel ashamed, you know, of spending the time trying to get you to know me in any form, and all you did was treat me like this at the end. I mean, what's the point? You know, what's the point to even be a friend now? And that's where a lot of the friendships went, because I felt that kind of, that fade into just believing the people that have been there longer, which is mostly the case, you know. When it comes down to it, that's why I'm talking about this, arguments and stuff, because a lot of people say, I've known this person longer. Yet, most of the time, those are the people that you lose really fast, too. You may trust them with an immediate exact, you know, being exact with the result, and that's what you feel. You know, you feel the exact result. But the thing is, an exact result doesn't necessarily mean it's right. It just means you feel the immediate emotion of it. An immediate emotion does not necessarily mean it's the right thing. Mine wasn't. Mine was never immediate emotion. None of my friends. I never ended a friendship, you know, before it was needed. The only one I did have a problem with, which was the group back in 2007, but that was because of personal stresses from what had been happening with that one guy touching me inappropriately at Long Beach City College. And that affected my friendships around me. You know, I apologize for that, but it did. It did, because I saw the exact attitude that that group of people, that group of friends were assembling with me. And I noticed it in a way where it's like, well, it's sort of pointless to treat me like this and then want to have answers like this. If I picked up something wrong, you're going to put it down like that? You know, I speak my own truths. But yet again, I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for what you're feeling. And if I am speaking for what you're feeling, then there's another problem right there. And it's better that it ended then. Because if I had done anything to endanger or hurt you, in the way of like taking that and saying, hey, you shouldn't be asking me that kind of question, then it's like, what the hell, you know? But there is truth to that. Because there is an idea of taking what you understand and not throwing it to the side. Because personally, that's why I've said all this. That's why I've said how I feel about having no arguments, like in the way other people do, like in the way where it's about ego, where it's about I'm gonna win. Then it's kind of a useless argument. Arguments are made to solve problems, not bolster egos. And I honestly believe that. You know, I personally take it like that. If I ever have an argument with somebody, it's like most people think this is an argument right here. I'm having an argument right now, but I'm not. You know? If you think this is an argumentative voice, then, I mean, you shouldn't be listening. You shouldn't be wasting your time listening to me, because I'm not trying to argue. I'm just pointing out my point of view, and I'm also pointing out what I feel. If it's an argument, I wouldn't even care to tell you how I feel. I would just be upset and angry and throw it at you. But if you would actually listen, rather than just say, well, this person keeps on talking, well, if you listen more, you'll actually hear something. You know, instead of just saying, well, he keeps talking, so he must be he wants to argue. So then I have to keep quiet completely? I have no voice at all? I mean, if there's no voice, there's no relationship to me. I have to talk, you know. You gotta have mind sex, you know. You can't just have physical sex. You gotta have that mind sex. You gotta talk. You gotta have that kind of collaboration that not just comes from, you know, our bodies touching each other, but also our minds touching each other. Also our voices coming out. Also our eyes looking at each other. Also our hands holding each other. It has to come from everything. It can't just come from one thing. If that's the only means you want to produce in a relationship, then you're not the right person for me. You know, as I've seen, most guys can be bad and most girls can be bad too. There's a both stratagem there. And it can be blamed easily on men. It could be blamed easily on girls. You know, I could blame either one. But at the same time, there's a constructed method to most people's thought. That I've been hurt before, so I'm going to do the same to others. But they don't say that in their heads, and they don't say that to anybody else. It's almost a secondary reaction, like, oh, I need to repeat this cycle. You know, the love-hate cycle, for example. To me, if I'm with a woman, I only want to deal with a menstrual cycle. I don't want to deal with the love-hate cycle, because to me, that's not a relationship. And if that's a certain kind of relationship, and that's a certain kind of relationship that isn't a relationship to me. I wouldn't define that as a long-lasting relationship. Just because, well, they argue like any other couple, doesn't necessarily mean they're a couple. Because literally the way I talk is not like any other person on earth. You know, it's not. And that's the thing, you know. My arguments are not arguments. They're trying to say, hey, localize yourself. Let me see you for who you are, not just for your ego. I want to see you for what kind of person you are, what you're feeling right now. That's why with my ex recently, I kept on asking her, what are you feeling? I don't like you answering we constantly. I want you to answer for yourself. But she never did. She kept on saying, well, we should break up. And then if I said anything back, she said, you know, if I said anything in response to her saying we, she said, oh, then why don't you, if you don't like it, then why don't you break up with me? And I was like, but this isn't the point. You're telling me to do something that I don't want to do. I have true feelings for you, and you're telling me to do something that I don't want to do. If you don't feel comfortable in the relationship, if you don't feel fulfilled in the relationship, you have to say so. You have to say it. No arguments, no testing people. You have to say you're not fulfilled. You can't you can't go around the bushes forever, because you're going to lose everybody by doing that. Just say you don't feel fulfilled. Just say it. Just say, I don't feel fulfilled with this person, to yourself first. And then say, you know what, I need to say it to this person because I honestly feel we have a good friendship brewing and I don't want to lose this person. To me, that's what I feel when I have to say something to somebody. But I never have yet, because I've always had genuine feelings. I never did anything out of convenience. I never did. Because I never felt like, you know, I need to be with somebody. I don't want to be alone. I never felt that way about it. I don't want to be alone. But I want to be with someone who wants to be there. Who wants to be there. Big word, wants to. Doesn't need to, isn't forced to. Wants to be there. Very different. It means that this person can see past all the temptations around you and just look at the temptation in front of you. Woo! I want to be able to say, you know what? Go to confession, for example, since I grew up Catholic. Go to confession, say, Father, you know, son, do you have any sins that you want to say? Only when I do to my wife every night. But it feels so good. So I don't think I'm going to stop that sin. Thankfully, I'm married, so that sin is, ooh, woo, very good. Because that's the truth. You know? You know? Our passionate love is perverse, but it sure gets better every day. Ooh. Literally. I'm not lying when I say there's no arguments. The only time I'll ever do arguments is if there's no ego involved and we're trying to actually solve the problem. Then I'll say, you know what, let's talk about this. If we get into an argument about it, let's make sure we're trying to solve the problem. Not just try to boast our own egos. Let's make sure we're trying to solve the problem. Because obviously if you have an argument, you need to solve the problem. If you just want to argue because you want to argue, that's not me. You know, I may play along for a little bit, especially if somebody's just trying to just test my buttons of what kind of person I am. But literally, it's not about playing along. It's about seeing, is this person really about their ego? And then when you realize it and say, you know what, I can't deal with this ego anymore. I don't have that. You know, I have no pride. The only pride I have is what kind of person I am. You know, that's why I don't worry about my reputation too much, because my reputation isn't going to count for much for myself. It's not going to mean much when I die. The only person that should ever matter to me is the one person that sees me for my character, for who I am. What I am to others, that doesn't matter. If those others want me to be meant for something for them, for their life, whether it's a friendship, whether it's anything, then they got to show it too. They got to stop worrying about their reputation and stop making up their reputation, because most likely if they care so much about their reputation, they're probably the ones who put a dent in it in the first place. They didn't waste their time just talking about, well, that guy has some reputation there. No. He only has a reputation there because you said that about him. Oh. Forgot that part, didn't you? And that's what it comes down to with everything. When it comes down to most of this stuff, it's just like, you know, saying that, you know, somebody's scared. Somebody says, I'm scared. So what? You could do anything in your life. I'm scared. How many more times can you say that? Me being scared has nothing to do with anybody else's life. Me being scared has nothing to do with what you're going to do with your life. if you feel fulfilled in your life, do what you want. You know, never look at what other people are feeling, because it's not about caring at that point. It's about you want to make everybody else change because of you. But that's not going to happen. You may have strength, but you don't have that much power. You know, you have to move on. Or look at that person and say, this person literally does have true feelings for me. And he's not lying. He's not putting his head in the dirt. He's looking at exactly what he's feeling, and he's not hiding from it. The unknown. That's what this comes down to. This is the unknown. But I'm not afraid of the unknown. I'm afraid that you're afraid of the unknown. I'm afraid that you're afraid of the unknown. But that's not really afraid. I'm just scared because I don't know what you're going to want to hold in your life. Don't know what you're going to need in your life. Don't know what you're going to have in your life. But that's not something to be scared of. All I can say is I've had my true feelings for basically every person I've ever told I had feelings for. They wipe me out from the beginning sometimes. Sometimes when I talked about my feelings, they go. Thankfully, I didn't rush it at them. The only time I did was back in 2007 with that group, like I said. Because of that guy touching me inappropriately and everything going downhill, I was like, why the fuck did this guy do this to me? Why did this guy ruin my life? He took my friendships away. I did it myself. I blame myself, obviously. Because to me, I did that. But the thing is, this guy didn't stop either. And he promised he wasn't going to do anything before that. Just like what would happen with Martha. All these things led from this kind of, oh, well, Marcello shouldn't feel this way. You didn't sound like you were a person who wanted to be with anybody. Martha, you already were with somebody. I don't want an open relationship like that. That's it. But see, the problem with anybody who doesn't want an open relationship is that most people think, well, you have to be jealous. You have to have that correspondence or that commitment. You have to show that you don't want that person with anybody else. No. You have to do that yourself. If you're afraid of the unknown, you should be fine with being accepting of just one person in your life. And being okay with everybody else that you meet. Because you would be afraid of the unknown anyway. So how afraid can you be if you're afraid of something that does want you? How afraid can you be if somebody wants you enough that they'll protect you, but you don't have to worry about them being jealous and carrying on about, oh, well, you were with this guy or you were with this girl. Oh, look at this, look at this, look at this. I'll tell you some things that don't count for much, and that's one of the biggest ones. How many more stories can you say, oh, my guy got jealous, oh, my girl got jealous? How many more stories? Until you realize these don't count for much. I can only speak about them with my girls that I talk to, or my boys that I talk to. How many more times can you speak about those things? Constantly, again and again and again and again. Repetitive engine. And then all of a sudden you're scared still of the person running away. You know what I'd be scared of? You know what to be scared of? It's not there. If that person can feel your passionate love, where does your jealousy come from? Because I don't have it. And I'm not saying this because I'm a better person than most men, I don't know what I'm feeling, or they know what I'm feeling, or because I don't take anything personally, which, to me, that counts for something. But that's only because... But actually it counts for nothing, because a lot of people think, well, this guy doesn't have feelings because he doesn't take anything personally. But why should I? I'm only looking for one person. So if I'm going to take everything personally from everybody, it means I want everybody in my life. Like I want one girl. Yeah, of course, Marcello wants the lady, the girl, everybody. He wants all of them. I've learned from all the people that are big. Charlie Sheen, Marlon Brando, Johnny Depp. I learned from the big three. To me, they're the big three, you know. Charlie Sheen was the guy who supposedly went in a magnanimous, one-on-one marriage and didn't work. And he tried it again and again. It didn't work. I learned from those mistakes. I saw from his mistakes. I saw from Marlon Brando's relationships that he had back when he was acting in his personal life. I learned from those people. I don't want to repeat their cycle. I'm not that type of person. I don't like those kind of cycles. The only cycle I can deal with is the menstrual cycle. I can see it every day, and it doesn't bother me. It doesn't scare me. It doesn't force me to run away. It doesn't force me to have to hear a woman say to me, well, you don't know how women are. How many more times do you have to say that before one will actually want to stay with me? Tell me, how many more have to say that to me before one of them wants to stay with me? Because you don't see it when you keep on repeating those things in your head. That you're setting up yourself for the downfall. Because you're saying, I'm scared? Scared of what? I'm not scared. My family is not the reason I want to get into a relationship. I'm not trying to escape my family or gain security from the relationship I'll be in. I want to be with somebody because I actually do. I'm not looking for acceptance from my family with the person I'm going to be with. My mom even said it best. Anybody you're with, as long as you're happy, I'm happy. Boom. There's the biggest line and the only line I'll ever take seriously. Because to me, it's not about what psychologically can be read from a person. Oh, the psychological reading of my girlfriend will count for everything about the relationship in the future. Nope. Quit it. Because that's not going to count for much. The only thing that I want to count is the passionate love and the ounces of talk we have. Because if you really want that kind of relationship, you can have it. Open door. Emotions of the open mind. Of the open heart. Of everything. I'm not afraid. I don't have much fear. Actually, I probably don't have any fear. But I do get scared. I do get afraid. But I don't have that kind of fear. I'm going to tell you this today and tomorrow and every day. Because I can see exactly that the pinpoint of what you want in your life is just something that'll force you in a position. But if that's what you really wanted, no one else could tell you differently. Even I can't. And I wouldn't want to. To me, if you have to tell somebody differently, and this is not only personal approach, but this is fact. If I have to tell somebody differently, they'll throw it in my face later on. So why would I tell somebody differently? Don't throw it in my face later on. I'm telling you how I feel. And I would love to tell you more. But emotions of the open mind can't work one way only. Because if you trust your friends word for word, and you're telling me I'm not being truthful, and that's a lie, how I'm feeling, when I never denied my feelings about you, then who's really denying their feelings? I'm not afraid of that. I'm scared, but I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of who I am. I'm not afraid to accept that I've messed up 1,000 times. I'm not afraid to say I made these mistakes. I'm more mature because of it. But it sure as hell doesn't mean much when I love you and you don't want to see it. And you want to walk away from it because I'm scared. Oh God, I'm scared. I'm scared because you're not here. I'm not scared because it wouldn't matter if you're here or not. I'm scared because you're not seeing that I want you to take your choice. That it isn't about me being scared or not. It's about you seeing that you have that choice. And so today and tomorrow, the emotions of the open mind are not afraid. No arguments. No stress. No ideas that are going to put you down in a reckless environment. I recklessly talk about everything, but I certainly do have deep feelings. And I'm not denying that. I'm not going to throw that to the garage. I'm not going to say I haven't cried. I've cried so much, but at some point you do have to move on. And start moving on. You know? I forgive you. I apologize to you. But it's time to move on. There's nothing else left between what you don't want. So if you're a person who doesn't want the kind of relationship that I want, I'm not talking about we have to defend only my kind of relationship. Of course not. But we do have to build a relationship if we want to try. That's one of my lines from my songs right now, you know. It's called Tambourine Box. The end of it goes like this. Stuck inside a tambourine box. I'm locked inside because of all your lies. Leave my love alone because you never tried. I mean, it's true. And I'm not trying to deny the kind of person that I am to be with you. I'm not trying to make you deny what kind of life you had before you met me. But you can never try to establish the kind of person I am if all you're going to do is look at your own past to try to see what you have. Because what you have in a relationship isn't what you've had before. It's never what you've had before. And it shouldn't be. It always has to be something different. Because if it's not, where will all your love come from? From what you had before? Because that's not love then. Because you're going to judge it accordingly with what you had before. You don't need that. That's what I see. And I'm scared like hell. But I'll be more scared if I don't take this because I couldn't afford it next time. I love you. I wish you the best. Bye.